You may be spiritual, but you're lost. It's hard for you to find a sense of meaning in anything in our modern day culture. Why is that? People in ancient times used to look to the arts, philosophy, religion, spirituality for their sense of meaning. But these things don't seem to have the same draw for us anymore. Why is that? The arts are commoditized, philosophy is stagnant, and anything we do is done in the name of profits. Some people are returning to religion and spirituality, but it just doesn't have the same depth of soul that it used to. And spirituality has mostly descended into confusion and conflicting views. If I were to ask 6 different people on the street what spirituality meant to them, I'd probably get 6 different answers. See, in ancient times, it wasn't like that. No two people would give me different answers on what spirituality was because people were so attuned to the spirit, it was like second nature to them. And they would never question something that they intimately already knew in their souls. And I think that's the answer. It's spirituality and being able to integrate that into our modern day culture. I had my spiritual awakening in around 2015, and that was a really low point in my life. I had lost my job, I had no sense of direction, and it was hard for me to find meaning in everyday things, external things. And I went through being lost for a long time, for around 10 years. And I realized something. Materialism is so ingrained in our society that we don't even realize it. It's so ingrained, and people that are lost, they have this void, and they try to fill this void with physical things, external achievements, material wealth. We have rocket ships that can shoot off into space and come back to Earth and land themselves. We have AI that can compute terabytes of data per second and give you the answer to any question that you have within seconds. But within all this, we can't find ourselves. Our souls long for meaning. In the name of technical progress and innovation, we have a society which is at an all-time high in depression, suicides, and mass killings. But, you know, there are attempts in our modern day to find meaning. And I do appreciate some of these attempts, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, with self-actualization at the top. Or you can take modern sort of revivals of older concepts like the Japanese ikigai, trying to find value in one's life. But taking all these together, and while I do appreciate them, they don't seem to be making a dent. They seem to be very surface level only. So why is that? What is it that these are possibly missing? Could we look potentially to the ancients for the answer to this? The Egyptians had their pyramids, their grand, precise pyramids that were intricately built, and they were aligned with the stars, with the magnetic fields of the earth. The Greek had their pantheons, their marvelous temples dedicated to their gods. And the Greeks, they built these temples for their gods because they actually saw and perceived their gods dwelling around them in their environment. And these temples that they built, nobody lived in them. They literally built them to house their gods that they perceived in spirit. And so the Greeks had a spiritual consciousness. They didn't yet have ego consciousness. We in our modern age have attained ego consciousness. But in that process, we lost spiritual consciousness. So the question becomes, through our ego consciousness, can we exercise it and regain our spiritual consciousness? Can we self-actualize that spiritual nature again through our egoic nature, our physical nature? Or will we forever lose the ability to perceive of the spirit around us again in our environment? And there are 1,000 things that hold us back and distract us daily. For example, you're probably on your phone right now with a solid internet connection. You're probably pretty comfortable in regards to living, at least with a shelter and food. So we don't want to do extra work. We don't want to put in extra effort to develop ourselves spiritually, because you have to get inside and deal with the inner trauma and the inner pain. And spiritual development is a lot of work, but I think it's the most crucial work that you can do. It's the kind of work where you don't get paid in material wealth, but you get paid in inner wealth. And inner wealth equals meaning. Look, you live 80 to 100 years if you're lucky, and there's this concept of a bucket list, right? Things that people want to do or see or experience before they kick the bucket. Well, how many people do you think have spiritual development and self-actualization on their bucket list? See, the very word spirituality means the state of or expressing of spirit. So by its very nature, spirituality is beyond physical things, the physical realm. But with our advancement in the physical realm, we've achieved so much with our keen observation of the external world. But in that process, the internal was lost. Having ego consciousness made us all free to be individuals in this world, and that allows us to choose as individuals. It's the age of freedom. We are free to choose what we want to do. With that freedom granted by our ego consciousness, will we choose to have spiritual consciousness again? Because by doing so, we choose out of free will, and that's what makes it meaningful. Because the ancients also were spiritual, but they didn't have a choice in it. They just perceived it directly. So with our ego consciousness, can we return to spiritual consciousness? I know it's on my bucket list. And in our age of ego consciousness, I think this is the last vestige of meaning. If you made it this far, I want to hear from you. I want to hear about what you think about the modern search for meaning. I want to hear about your thoughts on what spirituality means to you. I want to hear from you. I want to hear if you think spirituality is something we should strive for in our modern day age, or if not, what you think has true meaning in our modern age. I want to hear from you. Thank you, and until next time.